welcome to our channel by Gulab Sir for Wisdom Coaching Center. As a part of series of lectures, today's topic is polygenic inheritance. Mendel has described his experiment with two distinct forms for each trait, either dominant or recessive. But in society, or you would have observed, there are many traits that they have something indistinct forms, that is, height of the human being has no two form like very tall or only dark, but there are intermediate forms that in between that intermediate height, as well as there is skin color. It is not so only dark or only light, but there are various forms of skin color, that is from very black, blackish, whitish, mulatto, light, very light, or albino. So to understand this, that the trait is not always controlled by a single gene. Some of the traits are also controlled by more than one or more than two genes. Let us understand very surprising or very interesting phenomenon, polygenic inheritance. So polygenic inheritance. In word itself, it is very clearly mentioned that poly means many. That many gene control a trait. Many gene control a trait, and hence it is known as polygenic inheritance. In human being, a trait skin color. In human being, a trait skin color is controlled by three pair of genes. See that three pairs of genes, capital A, capital B, and capital C, capital C. These are the three pair of genes. These are the three non-allelic pair of genes. Either they present in dominant form or recessive form, or either of any form. So let us know their position. For example, these are the two chromosomes we call homologous pair of chromosome. What we receive these genes from our father. Say the arrangement of these genes is like this: capital A for capital B, they are present on different loci and hence can be, and capital C. Now here these genes can be capital A, capital B, capital C. Here it can be small a, small b, small c, or here capital A, capital B, small b, capital C, small c, any. Therefore, number of dominant genes present in an individual, they create an additive effect to produce the skin color. That is what we have to understand. Now you understand first point, that these are the three pair of non-allelic pair of genes. What does it mean? This is an allelic pair of gene, this is an allelic pair of gene, this is an allelic pair of gene, but when we say ABC, they are non-allelic pair of genes because they are present on different locus on homologous pair of chromosome. That suppose I am a Negro, I am an African Negro person which has very dark skin. That means I have this all 6 genes in dominant form producing maximum melanin pigment to have the darkest skin, and another is very light. To understand very light skin color, so we can understand in this way that the person who has very light skin color, to understand it, see, this is suppose a European man who has this pair of chromosomes will have very light color, that is albinic, very light, that is albinic, small a, small a. Then another as another pair of genes, small b, and small c. See, these genotype are with capital A, capital B. So capital A, capital B, capital C, capital C, all in dominant form producing maximum melanin pigment. Therefore, the person who will have the skin color is Negro, that is X-linked. And the person with small ABC, that an individual having genotype small a, small b, small c, will be very light, that is called albino, means has no melanin pigment in his skin, and therefore it is very light color. So these are the two color, but in between these two color there are many shades exist, and that is what we have to understand, and hence it is said that it is a quantitative or cumulative or additive inheritance, and that we are going to understand because of number of gene in their dominant form create an additive effect by producing more melanin pigment with respect to the sunlight and control a trait, and therefore to understand we can go to the second page. Before that, have look over this image given on net, that person with very light when marry with a person with very dark skin, say a European male marry with a African woman with this very dark skin producing intermediate trait, what we call mulatto. To understand, I am going to write their word. The person who produced to them will be definitely a person with a mulatto. That is what intermediate color to the very light and very dark. When an individual with this heterozygous condition for all these three pair of genes marry with a lady or female with heterozygous condition for the three genes producing sperm or ovum of 8 type, say these are the sperms produced of 8 type and these are the ovum produced of 8 type, randomly fuse and produce restore the diploid condition to represent an individual with very dark and very light, and there are intermediate traits, and that is what we have to understand with number of dominant gene 5, 4, 3, 2 and 1. Yes, so next page we are going to explain about how that number of gene control this quantitative inheritance. Say genotype, number of genes or alleles in their dominant form, and if skin color controlled by that number of gene in dominant form. Genotype, capital A, capital A, capital B, capital B, capital C, as I have explained to you where they are located on the chromosome. Same I am going to now explain to you. Here the number of gene in dominant form are all 6, and therefore each gene contribute to the skin color by having more production of melanin pigment, and therefore the skin color has to be negro, that is called the darkest one. Now next set of gene, that capital A, capital B, capital C and small c. Here you see one gene is recessive. Here all genes were dominant. Having 5 dominant gene, therefore number of dominant gene 5, that means they are active and producing melanin pigment. So create a skin color will be very black, very black, but not negro, because one gene is recessive, not creating additive effect. So here again capital A, capital B, small c, 2 recessive, 4 dominant, 2 recessive, therefore create less additive effect and having very dark skin but not very dark skin. So very dark skin, that we can call as blackish. Now number of gene in dominant form only 3, and 3 are recessive, that means it is intermediate. So intermediate skin color, intermediate to very dark and very light, intermediate to very dark and very light is mulatto, that is called Krishnavan in Hindi. Now another, that number of dominant genes are only 2 and rest of the genes are recessive, so number of dominant genes are less, therefore the skin color is whitish like Indian people. And again that number of dominant genes were reduced to only 1, so this is what only 1 create a melanin pigment, so skin will be fair color. And when number of dominant genes are 0, that means none of the gene is contributing to produce a melanin pigment, and therefore that skin will be albino. Now here I hope while explanation you did understand that number of gene in dominant form keep on decreasing, so the skin color, that is additive effect of melanin pigment, keep on decreasing, and therefore the person who is 0 dominant gene will have albino, that means no melanin pigment at all. If we see in a reverse direction, it will be best to have understanding that number of genes in first case in dominant form are 0, and thereby the skin color, there is no skin color. That means no melanin pigment, and thereby that albino skin color is also called as albinic, where you would have observed in European people that white skin with brown spot and brown hair, that is actually the disease skin. It is not a healthy skin, because that person cannot be in the hot sun. Even if they be in the hot sun, that skin start becoming red and even eyes start blinking, and that is what albinic person, or who cannot face high light intensity as very dark person or other person with this genetic combination, they can be having healthy skin, they will not have skin irritation. Now come to the point here. Number of dominant gene 0, no skin color. Number of dominant gene 1, create additive effect having some melanin pigment with respect to the exposure to the sunlight. So in the next case, number of dominant genes are 2. So whitish color, that creates slightly more melanin pigment. Number of dominant genes are 3. Additive effect, more melanin pigment, mulatto, that is what dark than whitish. Number of dominant gene 4, very very dark. Number of dominant gene 5, very very black. And here number of dominant form 6, that is what negro. Now you would understand every time that additive effect of skin color, that because of number of dominant genes. So I am going to underline here 0 dominant, here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. As the number of dominant gene increase, that means production of melanin pigment increase, create additive effect to have that different forms of skin color, and therefore in the society that we observe, there is no either of only dark or light color, but there are many intermediate color. So it is not that our skin color is controlled by only that gene, but also exposure to the sunlight. For example, a office worker, one who suppose start working in field, definitely his fair skin color start turning into some blackish, that is what tanning of skin occur. Therefore saying that gene or races who belong to Africa or Europe, it is not so correct. It is that what number of gene present in dominant form in individual will decide whether he is a Negro or white, but it does not mean he belong to that European or belong to the African. Rather to say that number of gene in dominant form, exposure to the sunlight with different frequency of light or intensity of light will decide the skin color. Now very important that to understand why this polygenic inheritance is also known as quantitative inheritance. It is because of number of gene in dominant form create a additive effect to have the different forms of the skin color. Hence it is also known as quantitative inheritance. Also known as cumulative inheritance. It is because that cumulative effect of each dominant gene create a additive effect to have the more melanin and therefore more darker and therefore to be Negro, therefore also known as cumulative inheritance. Now very important to understand. Let us consider this example having this 8 type of sperm and 8 type of ovum producing 8 type of sperm to have the random fusion with 8 type of ovum producing this many combination, that is called 64 combination in the ratio. Phenotypic ratio is very important to understand, because every time when we learn Mendel's law we did understand phenotypic and genotypic ratio. Here the phenotypic ratio is phenotypic ratio for this all 64 combination is 1:6:20:15:6:1. Who is this one? One who with 6 number of dominant genes. As I said you before that clip, here this number of genes 6. How many individuals are there? Only 1. Therefore 1. Now number of genes 0 in dominant form is only 1. Let you know once again from that figure or that diagram here, that small a, small bb, small cc, 0 number of, that is albino, and therefore it's become very clear to understand that albino color. Here number of gene in dominant form 0. Therefore out of that 64 combination, 1 is Negro, 1 is white. And these 20 which are mentioned here, they are intermediate, that is what mulatto. Once again the same diagram to understand here. Number of gene that were dominant 3 and intermediate And how many number of phenotypic combination will be there? The number of phenotypic combination will be 20, and therefore out of 64, 20 will be mulatto, 1 will be negro, 1 will be very light, and therefore this is a phenotypic ratio what we obtain through this cross in second filial generation. In first filial generation we obtain person with mulatto color when having marry with same genotypic combination, producing this 64 combination, that is F2 generation with 1:6:15:20:15:6:1 ratio, and that what give bell shape appearance to this phenomenon, that what having 1, 6, 15, 20, 15, 6 and 1, and hence this phenomenon is also known as giving a phenotypic ratio in a bell-shaped curve, and it is recognized by bell-shaped curve also. If question asks in NEET, one of the following phenotypic ratio gives bell-shaped curve, then please do remember that polygenic inheritance, quantitative inheritance, cumulative inheritance is also known as, and therefore it gives the bell-shaped curve. I hope you did understand that polygenic inheritance, how our skin color is being controlled by different or more than one gene in their dominant form. As in Mendel, only one allelic pair of gene control the trait, but this is an exception to the Mendel law where 3 non-allelic pair of gene control a trait, hence it is known as polygenic inheritance. I hope you understood well. Even if you are in doubt, you can write in comment section. I appeal you to subscribe our channel and like our videos, as well as share with your friends as many as you can. Press the bell icon to receive notification as and when new videos are uploaded. Thank you.